We'll tell all the good people out there about the Wirecast Gear and why it's such an amazing product line, all priced under 10K. We're back. Welcome to Video Guys Live. Tuesdays at 3 p.m. We tell you about the products we sell, new technologies, new features, new stuff. And today we're really excited because we've got a new product on display that's now available and in stock. It is the Wirecast Gear 3. But we just don't have the Wirecast Gear 3 here. We've got Shane from Telestream, the Wirecast people, who is a product evangelist, workflow specialist, going to tell us about this product and how it got there. Shane, first introduce yourself a little bit to everyone.
Hey everyone, Shane from Telestream. Happy to be back on the show, Gary. Basically, as Gary was saying, is all day, every day, I get to talk Wirecast and Wirecast Gear, ironing out workflows and essentially setting everyone up with an optimal streaming solution.
Cool. Now today's show, we're going to focus on the Wirecast Gear 3. Now this is not a product. It's a family of 4 products, all priced under $10,000 with an incredible new feature set tapping into the full power and performance capabilities of the latest version of Wirecast 15. But more than that, what I think is really cool is you're really delivering honest to God SDI 4K workflows for under 10 grand in a turnkey solution. Can you talk a little bit about how amazing that value is?
We did it. We released a turnkey streaming solution with warranty and support under 10 grand with 4K workflows. Each unit, whether it be HD or SDI, is running on a powerhouse CPU and GPU. So it can handle those 4K workflows as well as those ISO recordings, multiple displays, kind of whatever your production's calling for. We knocked it out of the park.
Right. So basically it's 2 versions, SDI and HDMI, and 2 resolution capabilities, HD or 4K, which of course includes HD and below it. So basically what we've got is a Wirecast Gear 4 HDMI HD solution at $74.95, all the way up to the Wirecast Gear 4K SDI solution for $9,995. Now we're going to go into more details on the features and why you'd want one or the other, but I got to tell you, if you've got a budget, you're a school or you're a church and you've got a budget that's 10K and you are not looking at the Wirecast 3 4K SDI, you are missing the boat, people. Why do I say that? Because you don't just want something that's good and delivers features and performance. You want to be future-proof. And we all know we will all be 4K someday. I know we're not streaming 4K yet, but we all have 4K TVs and monitors everywhere. And more than that, we have 4K cameras readily available at really inexpensive price points. So to say you're not doing 4K just because the streaming isn't 4K is not really an accurate statement, is it, Shane?
Correct. If we think about 4K, just even on like the live streaming production, we're not only just streaming, we're also recording to disk, or maybe that lecture presentation or speaker. We want a clean ISO recording of them. We have the option to do that in 4K now, as well as, if you're buying a camera, buy 4K. You don't have to stream 4K. It's just going to look that much better. And now that Wirecast is working in a 4K canvas, you can bump the resolution of your 1080p cameras to 4K as well. So there's so many options to fit every workflow, super flexible.
So this slide, if we can bring it up full screen, it's a lot of words, which I hate doing too much, but I want to stress that this is a brand new designed Wirecast Gear. The goal was make the best, the guys at Wirecast gave me a call and they said, what should we put in this? I said, everything, including the kitchen sink that you can, and stay under 10K. So what they give us, 4K P60, it's in there. GPU acceleration, it's in there. And I want to mention that even the most inexpensive unit has a discrete Quadro GPU, which gives you incredible accelerated performance and CUDA cores and stuff like that. The design and the form factor picks up where the last Gear was. This thing is solid. It's built like a brick tank. It is rack mountable, but it can stand on its own as well. So let's talk about it. It's a 2RU Windows. You get up to 5 HD SDI ports. It's got the discrete Quadros. It's got 16 gigs of system memory, which, a lot of people who create these turnkey solutions, even the people who roll their own, stop at 8 because it's just a sweet little cheap price point. But you know what? Whatever is your weakest link in your computer is going to be your problem when you start doing really complicated shows. So be it your speed of your hard drives, your graphics card, your CPU, your memory. something's going to be the choke point at some point. You don't want memory to be the choke point, because when memory is the choke point, everything starts slipping and sliding and destabilizes. So I love that you guys put in the 16 gigs of memory on all the different versions. Now, we said there's two different flavors. There's HDMI or SDI, and each one comes in two different resolutions. So here's a little picture of the back of the unit just so everyone knows. HDMI, that's the universal thing that if you have inexpensive cameras, HDMI, it's the jack we all use. It's how we hook up our TVs in our home. SDI is for more professional usage, but there's kind of a missing circle here, because although we have HDMI or SDI, either version has NDI, and NDI uses the Ethernet connection, and we talk about NDI all the time, we'll talk about more in the show, but through NDI you have virtually almost an unlimited amount of inputs and outputs with this puppy, don't you?
Exactly. And that's how I usually describe it is, if maybe it's of an education use, well, you most likely have some sort of presentation device that is HDMI. So presentations would come over HDMI, but we still have NDI for all of your cameras. Or more of a production set where everything's SDI. Fine, we can run those all in SDI. Really open the door to let all workflows or the hybrid of workflows available for every production.
I think that's the magic word, all workflows and hybrid workflows. We understand, especially when this is targeted, schools and churches, you've got some existing gear already. You're not throwing all that gear away. So we got to make the gear you have and like work with the new gear you're going to buy. And I keep saying gear, and this is the gear, and I'm sorry, no pun intended, but we have to make all the stuff you have, your electronics, whether it's HDMI or SDI, work in this new world, and we have to make it work whether it's 4K or HD. Now, Shane, I really wanted to talk to you about this a lot. We hinted at it in the beginning of the show, but a lot of people say, why should I get 4K? I can only stream HD, but I think that is a very short-sighted look. And if you can find a way to get the extra budget, the extra $2,000, get yourself the 4K, because that's what's future-proof. And, you work with people all the time. Don't they end up having that regret where they say at some point, I wish I'd gotten the 4K model?
It really is, because if you think about it, as a content creator, we're always saving our work or archiving our work into some sort of CMS. Wouldn't you rather have a 4K ProRes version of that in your archive instead of the 1080p? So just in all these production workflows, we're always, archiving or saving our content. It's the perfect opportunity to save that in 4K now for future use.
So you're saying take your ISOs, every camera feed, record it in 4K, because in the future, 4 or 5 years from now, when you go to repurpose that video for something, it will be 4K at whatever you're going at. And people don't realize that one of the real advantages of the Wirecast Gear with the power and performance and the SSDs that are in it is you can record 4K ISOs, no problem. So once again, shoot in the highest possible resolution, stream in the resolution that works best for your audience. And the reason I say that is even if you can get 4K up where you are, if your community around your church really has internet issues where even getting a good 1080p HD is tough, there's no point in putting 4K. You can choke and it's going to scale down anyway and not look as good. So, you want to stream in the 720p or 1080i or 1080p, because that's really what your audience is watching for the most part reliably. But that doesn't mean you can't produce a great show. And also, for a house of worship, you could put 4K screens in your overflow rooms, run those via NDI with an inexpensive NDI converter, and now you can have multiple overflow areas for when the holidays are bigger or when more people come in, or if perhaps you just want to stream something from the pulpit, but it's going to go to a classroom where some kids are learning something, or it's a lecture that's being done by the reverend to explain something to one of the classes that are in school that Tuesday or Thursday learning about, their studies.
We actually make that easy for you, and it's perfect that you brought this up, is that our 33 destinations that we work directly with have provided us presets. So we kind of make it pretty easy for you to choose your output resolution at 1080p with YouTube up to 2K, but we're trying to keep you safe there. All those presets are there for a reason.
And once again, by presets, a lot of people are used to streaming solutions that are either their phone that are super simple, or they get a little complicated where you got to copy and paste these long codes into different things to make your RTMP streams work. And that works. It's great, folks. And if your presets don't work, the number one troubleshooting tip that I give you is well, try just manually loading the RTMP stream. And 9 out of 10 times that does the job for whatever reason. Because in any given day, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitch could be doing something peculiar, either on purpose or by accident, that affects your stream. And my number one tech tip is if you're having problems with your stream to a certain CDN that's important for you to be on, cut and paste the RTMP stream, see if that works a little better. But the presets are wonderful because you can really, I can't stress enough how the Wirecast encoder itself, the software heart and soul of the software encoder, has been best in class for so long. It's a beautiful, beautiful encoder. In fact, back in the early days, I had people who had run Wirecast on a laptop to do their encoding versus a standalone encoder because it was so much better. Now things have caught up, but the encoding, the image quality, the encoding in Wirecast is second to none. And I don't care what other software you're using or what other streaming device you're using. I will put the quality of Wirecast up against $10,000 and $20,000 systems sold into the broadcast area. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Heading into the 11th year, it's been award-winning every year.
And what do you need to do the best possible encoding? You want to throw some power and performance about it. So let's talk about what's in the Gear 3 versus the Gear 2. First of all, I like the new look. It's heavy duty and all that, but what really I want to talk about is the CPU and the GPU. That's the heart and soul. You've gone to an AMD Ryzen, and I know people say Intel, AMD, what's the right thing? And I say the right thing is what you can build your system around and get the highest performance out of it. And these AMD chips are blazing fast. They're a great value, and they happen to work fantastic with the discrete Nvidia GPUs. There was a time where you kind of mixing and matching was problematic, but that's not a case anymore. And that's why you're getting this 4K, 4 streams of 4K P60. That is incredible performance.
Right. We went stuck with the Nvidia GPUs as well, so we could utilize the NVENC encoding.
I know.
So in
good.
those more task-oriented workflows or heavier duty, we can actually task the GPU with certain encodes and alleviate the CPU.
Yeah, and you can be doing multiple encodes to multiple destinations at multiple ratios or screen sizes or image qualities, whatever you need. It's really, the power and performance is in there. You're going to be limited by the total amount of, your total bandwidth up is going to limit how many different encodes you can do and be successful, but most people have enough to do 2 or 3 on their upload. Especially one of the things I want to remind people, if you're a house of worship or a school or a corporation that wants to get into live streaming, you need to make sure you're not buying an asynchronous package, that you're getting your upload speed for you is very important. Whereas for the typical person who's a gamer or just someone who's downloading Netflix or Hulu, you don't care about the upload speed. For us in the streaming world, we are uploading our stream to the cloud and to everyone else through those CDNs. So remember, uploads are important to us in the streaming world. Have you seen this chart all fully decked out yet, Shane? I'm going to put you on the spot because I think this is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
It's one of the best comparison charts I've ever seen. I want to bring it up full screen. We've got the Gear 3 and the Generation 310s here as well, the prior series. And I think it's important because we want to show you just what's changed. And to me, a Quadro T400 4GB card is a phenomenal card, but we're putting the T1000 in the 4K version. So that's one of the things that I want to talk about, because that card alone is probably worth $1,000 inside that box. Plus I'm getting 4K. Now the 4K wouldn't be possible without that card, but that card also means if I'm doing HD, I have that much more GPU performance in the box.
Exactly. That, and if you look at, this chart's great. The Gear 420 was our workhorse of Gen 2.
Yep.
It was the flagship. The 420 is essentially our baseline HD series now.
Yep.
So the workhorse of Gen 2 is now the baseline of Gear 3, and it just goes up from there. And there's some little things on here you might not even notice, but 5 USBs, honestly, I ran out. I ran out of USBs every time with the dongle, the X keys, and other things. So now there's 7. This is the little things that we've learned from Gear 2 moving into Gear 3. And again, they just did a great job thinking of every little thing for those workflows.
And the graphics card gives us more display ports, and we can use those display ports for a lot of different things. We don't just have to use them as a monitor per se. And this is this Gear 3 capabilities chart, which goes into, we're talking about the big one, the $99.95 now, but let's just talk about, you'll roll through the talk, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to advance the slide as you go to talk about all the things that we can get in and out of this product that's so tremendous.
And this is a robust workflow, and this is a good example because there's a lot going on here. We have the SDI PTZ cameras. So I call those would be set and forget, or a physical controller. But now we have those over NDI as well, where we can do power and control, not just pan, tilt, zoom, but
Yep.
exposure, white balance, focus, and preset shots. So you have all of these cameras coming in with your audio, whether that be over the network, Dante,
Yep.
or a physical board connected by USB. So those are just your inputs. That would crush another system.
And
We haven't even
I
talked
also
about
want to
the
stress that we're
outputs.
showing
Yeah.
4K PTZ cameras here just for explanation, but you could be using a 4K camera like we are with the CX350 as my main camera right here that I'm looking at. It could be any combination of cameras. The reason we put PTZs in this example is because all these PTZ controllers, all these PTZ cameras can be controlled from within Wirecast, or you can get a single PTZ controller like the PTZ Joy from PTZ Optics and control them, or you could be using something like an X key and have presets for each one set in it. But you really have a situation where one person can control a very complex show pretty well, and two people can go completely off the rails and do everything possible because, you know, we don't even show this. We can have one of those SDI inputs can be, we can take an input over NDI of a laptop that could be running Pro Presenter to put lyrics on the screen and things like that. So, and then let's talk about these DP outputs, because the DP outputs can be used for multi-viewers. They can be used to go into so many things.
Like a breakout room, a secondary display out with connected audio, to something maybe like a proof room where someone can be watching an individual source with a selected audio embedded. When you get into that many cameras, the multi-viewer definitely makes sense. And if we had the X keys, like you said, we could start delineating or tasking separate tasks. So you could have a multi-viewer with an X keys and someone selecting your cameras, someone else running Wirecast selecting your logos, lower thirds, text overlays, graphics, and begin to start tasking those different workloads.
And it can all be streaming wherever we want to stream it. As we talked about before, one of the other things I want to go over here that's important is, you know, I can get a live output, or I can get a multi-viewer, or I can get the actual interface. So I'm using a lot of outputs. I can have a lot of monitors, a lot of glass, because I know one of the things that I found is, especially a product like this is going to be used by students who are kind of new users or novice to intermediate users, or I also worship where typically it's, yeah, an expert might have set up, but it's a volunteer. And I find that if you give people more glass, that they don't have to switch through different monitor views and just let them see everything they need on the layout, they're a lot more comfortable. At first it seems daunting. You see all these different cameras and all these different shots. But when you understand that you don't have to worry about flipping through, you know, what my view is and what I'm looking at, you become a lot more comfortable. You start knowing what you're looking at. And being able, if you've got 4 cameras and you've got a preview monitor, that's just a multicam of those 4 cameras, it just makes life so much easier for the operator, doesn't it?
Exactly. Or even in the interface itself, I'll actually drag my visuals or my camera sources larger and just use the interface as my multi-viewer.
Right.
Less than 6 cameras, it works pretty well.
And once again, it doesn't matter what you use in the show to make your show better. It's your show. It's how you want to produce as a producer. And you could have 2 people in your church who are volunteers who produce the same exact show, but they do it very, very differently. It's not one way is right or wrong. It's what you're comfortable with the tool set and how your creative flow works, so to speak. Because one of the things I'd like to talk about with all of this is that it's important to understand that we're telling a story. Even though we call it live stream, we're telling a story. We're trying to engage an audience. And we want to free up the operators to be creative, to tell the best possible story. We don't want people just worrying about the widgets and what knobs to hit and what buttons to push. We want to allow people to tell a story, to engage their audience, to bring up the right graphic at the right time that helps sell the story and stuff like that. So I want to do this little wrap up of the Wirecast 3, the takeaways, and I'll give you each one of these and you can give me a little comment on it. Fully integrated 2RU solution and a sleek new look. Duh, right?
Yeah, right. Turnkey solution with warranty and support.
That's even better. Warranty support. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, and that's what it is. Out of the box performance, ease of connecting your devices at an affordable price. Another way of saying a turnkey unit with warranty and support. We've got you covered.
Right. So that's our point 4 here. True best-in-class support from one source. Now, that's important because if I have a problem with it, I only call one place, you guys on your support. And I got to tell you, you guys have great support online. You have great support on your knowledge base, in your user groups, in your websites. But the beautiful thing is if you have a problem, you can purchase actual live support if you want it with the GearCare for 3 years.
Correct. And that covers the customer, that covers the software, and that covers the hardware. So it's an all-inclusive support package for a 3-year term, being priority response, phone support, remote in support. Also, a huge thing to note is drop ship replacement. If that unit is down for default defect, we will be drop shipping you with GearCare. We'll be drop shipping you a new unit. We ask for that unit back, but we need to get you back up and running. So GearCare definitely has you covered.
And there's something on here that I think is very important. We're talking about GearCare, and for the 3 years you get, it's over the top care and it's great. But I want to bring you to the dead center on this chart. Phone support, 90 days from date of purchase. So many people, the issues you have is when you're getting started, learning how to set it up, figuring stuff out. You guys give 90 days of free phone support. Can I just say, touchdown, 100%. I wish everyone in my industry would do it. I beg my other vendors to do it, and they tell me you can't do it. We'd be out of business if we did it. Well, you guys are doing it. And I'll tell you one of the reasons why you're doing it, and you do it so well. Because you know how your product works, you know gear is over-engineered to support the product, and because you have knowledgeable people on the other line in the United States of America who use the product and can help the people who call figure it out. And they can even get a guy like you on the phone if it's a real stumper workflow, right?
Absolutely. Happy to. That's what I love doing. No, we have a great team.
Once again, 90 days from date of purchase, 3 years, you get phone support. And that's the other thing I want to stress again. House of Worship, education, volunteers. So even though it worked great for the first year, you come back next September and something's not working right. Well, with the Wirecast Gear, 3-year GearCare, you call on the phone, you get a live person who's going to help you get it set up and get you back up and running. And that is fantastic. I can't compliment you guys enough for your commitment to warranty and support, whether people just take the first year for free or whether they buy the GearCare. Either way, it's a fantastic offering.
Absolutely.
All right, one of the things that I put this slide up is, I wanted to put this next slide in the presentation. I thought it was important because a lot of people don't understand how high up the users of Wirecast and Wirecast Gear are. And there's thousands of customers, and we're talking about, we've got Wirecast or Wirecast Gear. This is a combination. This isn't necessarily Gear, it's Gears or Wirecast, but we've got it in broadcast at places like NBC and Fox. We've got it on high-level corporate videos. We've got it in schools like USC and Amherst, and we've got it on sports networks and Harvard University. I mean, this is a heavy-duty professional product. And just because we're selling a complete turnkey solution for under 10 grand doesn't mean that it's not up to whatever you're looking to do in your live streaming production. Isn't that true?
Absolutely. And I've worked with most of these customers, Julian as well. And specifically what we're doing is we're not just selling them a product. I'll ask NBC for the Olympics, James Corden, when the pandemic first hit, what is your workflow? And we completely ironed it out, showed them before they ever even got the box on location.
And that's just a beautiful, wonderful thing. And I think it talks, I think, incredibly, not just about Wirecast and Wirecast Gear, but Telestream's commitment to service, support, and workflows and understanding their customers' needs.
Absolutely.
All right, the next part we're going to talk about the Wirecast software itself. Now, we spent a lot of time talking about the Gear, which is the integrated box. Can we show the glamour shot of the Gear again for a second? There it is, nice and rugged. And now we can come back to me. And now we're going to talk about the Wirecast software itself. Now, the Wirecast software, you see it running right here with me and Shane on this screen, and we're actually running this off the actual Gear at the same time that we're doing the show. Is a little picture-in-picture kind of get you a little nervous kind of thing. But what I want to stress here is that Wirecast has, is it hundreds of thousands of users? Have you gotten to 1 million users yet? I mean, there's just so many people using Wirecast, and it's been out for, 15 years is like a human generation almost, right? Let alone a generation in software.
Oh, yeah.
It's available. What I love about it is PC or Mac, laptop, desktop, same great product, same great workflow, same great everything. You don't have to use it differently if you're on a PC or Mac. It just is what it is, and it's a phenomenal product. And my little tech tip, another one, I'm going to look right at the camera at this, is the great thing about it is Wirecast, you can get the trial version or get a regular version on a laptop, and someone can be practicing and learning how to use it so that you can use this as a training thing. So if you have your Gear up and running in your school's auditorium or in your house of worship, you can put Wirecast on a laptop, someone take it home, learn the basics of it, And that's really great because other softwares are tied sometimes to the actual system they're integrated into, and you can't learn how to use it yourself. You have to be on that system to learn how to use it. So powerful, customizable live video streaming for Mac and Windows. The next one, you've seen this slide before, Shane. You talk about a little bit about capturing your content, producing your show, streaming it live.
Right. See, it's all within the same interface. So capturing your content, we have to compose those shots. So you're using Wirecast to compose your shots, logos, lower thirds, your visual elements, your sounds. But in that same UI, that's your switcher. So you've never left the actual UI itself in capturing your sources, composing your shots, and then switching. But I say deliveries now, because as we're talking before, yes, streaming, record to disk, ISO record to disk.
Yep.
Push Wirecast live output to any webinar platform or all of them at once. So it's really robust, super flexible, and just fits almost every workflow.
I know, and with Wirecast 15, it seems like every 3 or 4 releases, you guys take a real look at what's going on under the hood, and you make sure you tighten the nuts and tighten the bolts, and you get better CPU and better GPU performance and more efficient. And what's crazy is you did that with 15, and we got a box that's bigger and stronger. So where you made a 50 to 30 improvement in the CPU, you got twice as good a CPU, and you got twice as good a GPU. The improvement is just dramatic in a Gear. But even if you're not in a Gear, Wirecast is really tapping into today's modern computers really, really well.
Wirecast 15 just blew the top off. The dev team specifically went in not just looking for a chunk of performance. They went into multi-viewer and found 1%. They went into rendezvous and found 3%. They dug in so deep and overall have a 30%, 30 to 60%.
And I want to compliment the guys too, because every time there's a new version of any software, usually you get moaning and groaning from a lot of people who've been on it for a while who complain about whatever the upgrade is, but we haven't seen that at all. You're getting a resounding kudos from everyone and a lot of people who had certain frustrations where they still loved Wirecast, but there was that, if you could only fix this. They're saying, you guys nailed it, you fixed it. They're saying, maybe it's because the CPU could do more, maybe it's because the GPU, maybe it's a specific bug that was attacked, but either way, Wirecast 15 is really a super stable, powerful, not that there was problems before, but you really, like you said, you knocked it out of the park, and that's why we can do 4K P60 so easily. So one of the things that we all know when we're streaming is we're streaming most of the time to social media. And one of the things that we try to get more and more of is engagement. So talk about how Wirecast now gives you not just streaming to social media, but actually we have web page integration and social media integration to increase the engagement of our viewers.
Absolutely. And it's within Wirecast. We're not using a third-party software pumping it into Wirecast. This is all within Wirecast. So we have social media integration with moderation. So it's a separate window that pops up. And as we're streaming to YouTube, Twitch, or Facebook, we'll enable those and you'll see those comments come in. You approve, disapprove, and send them back. Currently, we have 5 different skins or players that you can choose to, it's like a lower third.
Yep.
To show those moderations. That's a growing library as well. In web page, the integrations with that, it's awesome because in the presentation world, say it's a web page, you can actually navigate, play, click through that web page and actually use Wirecast as your presentation source of that web page.
And one of the
awesome
things
feature
I love with those skins is if the person has an icon or an image or an avatar, that could be part of it. And that people love seeing their face, seeing their little image, whatever it was they were. It makes them feel even more a part of the show. So I love that you're doing that. And the big thing here that I want to stress for education and churches is completely moderated. Nothing automatically goes into your feed. You pick the social media ones you want to go in. You say yes, it goes to your feed. You don't have to worry about, bad language or someone saying the wrong thing or, just some dumb kid typing something dumb that kids do. It's fully moderated within the Wirecast interface.
Right. You can send them individually or you can do like a batch. You approve, select them all and just send them through and it'll just every 5 seconds transition between the two. So individually or bulk.
We talked about NDI a little bit before as a brief thing, but I want to take a couple minutes and do just a little bit about NDI is, because we may have some people who are beginners who don't yet understand what NDI is. So NDI is a network device interface that was developed by the folks at New Tech about 6 years ago. And what it does is it allows you to send video over Gigi Ethernet. But what's more important is you don't just get the video, you get the other side. It's a full two-way communication. So I can get my comms, my control for my PTZ camera, my tally. All that can go back and forth, and any NDI device can see any other NDI device on the network. So not only can the PTZ cameras be seen by the Wirecast, if you had Wirecast running on a laptop and Wirecast also running in your studio, they could see each other. As also you can put Wirecast on a laptop that's running something like a Pro Presenter and bring your lyrics in via your network. And the beauty thing about it is it uses the standard networking that's already existing in your church, house of education, corporate center, what have you. Now, I'm going to give another tech tip, and that is what's real important to make NDI work and to work brilliantly is having the right switch. And for years, that was kind of you're on your own, try to figure it out. Well, I'm going to give a little plug to another company that we do business with that you know and love, and so do I, Shane, that's Netgear. They have come out with NDI IP optimized switches that are so easy to set up and configure, the 4250 series of switches, that I just want to say, number one, if you're planning on putting a Wirecast Gear and using NDI, that is a switch you want to go to. But more importantly, my tech tip is, if you've tried NDI and you're having issues or it's driving you crazy, replace your switch with the Netgear switch, and 9 out of 10 times, all your problems will instantly go away. And these switches start at about $600. They're not super expensive switches. Now, we got them all the way up there with a ton more inputs, but even if you're like a school that's trying to do a theater or a lecture center, or you can have your existing network and then just put your NDI network on the Netgear switch and have that switch then talk to your outside network. It's not hard to set up. It's very good user interface. We've done some shows on it, but I know, Shane, you've fallen in love with these switches too. I've seen you at trade shows just talking to the Netgear guys' ears off.
Exactly. Then what they did is they ironed out the wrinkles from us kind of pioneering subnets or building out a second network card of NDI workflows. They, again, like industry leaders, they knew exactly what needed to be done and did it.
They listened, they were ahead of the curve, and they have their own outstanding support that I would say is almost maybe as good as what you guys do over the phones too, with live people who understand the workflows and how these products are being used. So you get a Wirecast Gear, you get a Netgear switch, you're in business, you'll be up and running. If you run into problems, there's a lot of smart people who are there to help get you ironed out, and they will. Your success will be tremendous. So the last thing is that, you know, and I joked about this, and I don't know if we have this lower third available, but we know that we've been streaming for 5 or 6 years here, but in 2020, the world had to start live streaming. We didn't have a choice. We just had to make it work. And a lot of times, it didn't work that great, but it worked, and that's all that mattered. Then in 2021, we had to make it look better, work better, and easier to do. And now in 2022, we're really taking that next jump. We're making sure that it's more powerful, that it's got remote functionality, collaborative, automatic things happening, you know. And I think Wirecast with 15 in the gear really speaks to that. You've taken a jump, and I feel, and I know you can produce a show that looks as good as anything that's happening on late night TV, your favorite sports channel, whatever, on Wirecast, and you'll get those same good looking graphics, your image quality, your lip sync, tremendous job. It will look as good as what you see on TV. Tell me I'm wrong.
Absolutely. Shane. No, absolutely. Then Wirecast 15, that's where you have to tip my hat to everything that was done in 15, because it is ensuring the best possible streaming quality, ease of use, ease of connecting your devices, and ease of switching through your sources. Again, they did it, and they did it well.
And one of the things, if we can go back to this shot that's got kind of the screen here with the interface of Wirecast, that I really want to stress is, it's a super easy interface to learn. If you take anyone who's a modern, semi-tech fluent person, a kid who's, you know, under 30, or someone who's maybe my age who's used some different computer stuff and stuff like that, you're going to take to Wirecast very quickly. It's not a complicated interface to use. The tools that you need the most often are right on top and easy. It's very intuitive to use. It's not something that, you know, you're going to have to get months and months of training to be good at. Now, my rule of thumb still exists. Whenever you get a new system like a Wirecast or a Wirecast Gear, even Wirecast 15, I always say, give it some time, give it 4 shows. The first show is a crapshoot. We don't know how it's going to happen. The second or third, the odds are one goes well, one doesn't, but they both don't. So something changes. Then by the fourth show, you really get the groove and you're in your place and you're where you're using it. And I like to stress that to people no matter what you're doing. So let's say I just want to add a couple of new cameras, new PTZ cameras to my show. Well, be prepared that there's going to be a learning curve. It's not going to, the first show may look great, it may not, but by the third or fourth show, certainly by the fourth one, you get more comfortable. And that's my own little rule of thumb that I try to stress to people all the time when you're doing live shows. If you're a new person who's going to be on a show, by your fourth show, it's going to look better. When you were doing your first live streaming of trainings for people for workflow, how much better was your fourth show than your first show?
An absolute success. I had audio issues, I had everything.
Don't get me started. Tech tip numbers 5 through 100. Audio is the most difficult thing in video, and if your audio is bad, you will lose your audience. So pay attention to your audio, figure out your audio, and if you have audio problems, do not rest until you fix them. And a lot of times, you've got to dumb down your show to make the audio as simple as possible to have it work great. But we're bringing you on this show, we're having a conversation, our audio levels are similar, you're not popping, I'm not popping, it sounds great, it looks great, and people are going to be engaged in the show. But I got to apologize, Shane, because once again, we blew it. We went way over time. What should have been a 20-minute show, we went 35 minutes. So I just got to thank you, because I love having you on the show. You know your stuff about the Wirecast, but more than that is, you really, we didn't mention this, but you actually produce shows for your local churches and other things too. You are not just an evangelist, but you use this gear like, not as a side hustle, but as kind of your hobby to help your community as part of your calling. So before we go on the show, I always give people a last word when we're on the show, but talk a little bit about your own experiences actually using Wirecast Gear in a house of worship setting.
Right, and that's where really where it shines is most, around here, most of them you're integrating. So I'm actually bringing the Wirecast gear on site and asking, what do we have available? And this is in pre-production. This wouldn't be on the day of. So this is like, we could say practice. Of course, I have some of my own equipment if we need to kind of accentuate or pump up the production a little bit, but usually everything's there. So for me, it's just always a little pat on the back to Wirecast and Wirecast Gear is how I can show up on location, see what's available or what I'm trying to integrate with, and it always works to some degree that I can just kind of plug and play.
Shane, I love that. It always works. That's a tagline I think we got to use with Wirecast, because the truth of the matter is, it really does. It's so reliable, so stable, and when you run it on the gear, you compress it all the way, doing multiple everything, and it's going to handle everything that Wirecast can give it, multiple layers, multiple encoding, multiple graphics, multiple CDNs with Twitch or Twitter feeds coming in and stuff like that. So just a great job, great product, great to have you on the show. Thank you so much. We'll have you back in sometime in the near future. This is Gary for Video Guys. This is my plug where I say, subscribe to our YouTube channel so you know that we're coming on live. Subscribe to our Facebook Live, and also Wirecast and Telestream has a bunch of live shows that they do also, so subscribe to those also. This is Gary from Video Guys. I'll see you next Tuesday. Shane, thanks so much for being on the show. Peace.
Absolutely.
Video Guys is available Monday through Friday. Give us a call at 1-800-323-2325. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram to stay connected with all of our updates. And you can like us on Facebook. Keep an eye out for our live videos, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.